My in-laws moved in, then I evicted them. Crazy family drama. You won't believe the nightmare that unfolded after my in-laws moved in. I thought I was marrying the man of my dreams, but his family turned my life into a living horror movie. It all started innocently enough. James and I met at a quaint little gift shop. The air was thick with the scent of scented candles and fresh stationery, and I was meandering through the shelves, searching for a unique keepsake. That's when I noticed him. He was standing in front of the greeting cards, flipping one open and then snapping it shut, a small peculiar trinket dangling from his other hand. He seemed lost in a world of indecision. I couldn't resist. Can't make up your mind? I asked, taking a few steps towards him. He looked up, startled. Oh, hi, I'm James, he said, offering a hand. I'm in a bit of a bind here. I'm on a mission to find the perfect birthday gift for my mom, but I seem to be circling around these two. I chuckled. They're quite different. What's your mom like? Maybe I can help you choose. James's face lit up with a grateful smile. That would be amazing. Thank you, my mom. She's been my rock, you know. As he spoke about his mother, I learned she was a woman of both sharp wit and elegant taste. How about we find something that celebrates both? I suggested. We spent the next few minutes discussing his mother's likes and dislikes. The more we talked, the more charming I found him. Anna, you're a lifesaver. I would have been lost here for hours without your help. How can I thank you? James said, his relief evident. How about you save me from having to cook dinner tonight? There's this cozy little Italian place I know. How does that sound? It sounds perfect, I replied, my heart skipping a beat. We exchanged numbers and made plans to meet up for dinner. In a sea of mundane days, this chance encounter felt like a breath of fresh air. That evening, the air was crisp. Ready? James asked, sensing my nervousness. As ready as I ever be, I replied, trying to muster a smile. We stepped into the living room where Mr. Carter sat almost invisibly beside Mrs. Carter. Mom, Dad, this is Anna. James introduced me. Nice to meet you, I said, extending my hand. Mrs. Carter's voice was firm as she said, dear, ignoring my hand. James seemed oblivious to the tension, or maybe he was just used to it. Anna, Mrs. Carter began, her tone casual yet loaded. James tells us you're an accountant. That must be interesting. Yes, it's quite rewarding. I love working with numbers, finding solutions. She hummed unimpressed. And your parents? What do they do? It felt less like a conversation and more like an interrogation. James remained silent, his occasional attempts to change the subject quickly overridden by his mother's pointed questions. Tell me, Anna, how much do you earn? I was taken aback. It wasn't a question you'd expect in a first meeting, and certainly not in such a straightforward manner. It's a decent amount. It allows me to live comfortably, I answered vaguely, feeling my cheeks flash. I see, she continued her scrutiny. Is that a family heirloom? She asked, peering at a necklace I wore. It was my grandmother's. I inherited it, I replied. As we left, James said, that went well, don't you think? Oblivious to the undertones. As we drove away, the weight of the evening settled on my shoulders. Mrs. Carter's intense scrutiny and pointed questions lingered in my mind, a stark contrast to the warmth and ease I felt with James. James and I, we were in love, sure, yet there we were. Anna, I know it soon, but I feel it, you know, James said, his eyes full of that earnestness that first drew me to him. I hesitated, the image of Mrs. Carter's scrutinizing gaze flashing in my mind. James, are you sure we're ready for this step? He took my hands in his, a comforting warmth spreading through me. I love you, and yeah, my mom can be a bit much, but don't worry, we'll handle it together. You and me. His words were reassuring, a leap of faith I was willing to take. We decided on a simple ceremony, no grand gestures, just an intimate gathering of close friends and family. It felt right, true to who we were. The wedding was beautiful, a small affair in my backyard. There was an undercurrent of tension, an unspoken question hanging in the air. How would the Carters fit into this new picture we were painting? As we danced, James whispered in my ear, don't worry, love, we'll make it work. You, me, and yes, even my parents. Promise, I asked. Promise, he affirmed. Promises are fragile things. The reality hit home when James and I moved into my grandmother's house. It was a quiet place, well-designed and independent living friendly. Your grandma had it all figured out, how? James remarked one evening, his gaze trailing over the seamless design. Yeah, she did. She wanted to be independent no matter what, I said, a hint of pride in my voice. It wasn't long before Mrs. Carter came to visit. The way she moved, slowly, deliberately, her cane tapping against the floor, filled me with dread. This is a nice place, Anna, she said, very accommodating. I forced a smile. Thanks, Mrs. Carter. We like it. It's difficult, you know, living in a place that doesn't understand your needs, she said, a hint of something ominous in her voice. I think I'd be better off here. The statement hung in the air. James, ever the peacemaker, tried to navigate the treacherous waters. Mom, We can discuss this later. Let's not jump into decisions. But the decision, it seemed, was already made. Searching for the reassurance I so desperately needed, I realized that our swift marriage was about to face its first real test. It wasn't just the extra shoes by the door or the additional toothbrushes in the bathroom. I was in the kitchen when I heard her approaching, a sound that was quickly becoming the soundtrack of my life. Dear, I was thinking. She started, a voice cutting through the silence. This shelf is too high. I can't reach anything. You should rearrange it. I bit my lip, holding back a sharp retort. Sure, Mrs. Carter, I'll take care of it. And another thing, she continued, oblivious to my growing frustration. Mark and I should take the bedroom downstairs. It's just too much for me to climb up and down. I protested weakly, the reality of the situation crashing down on me. She gave me a look. Well, it's just practical, dear. You're young. Before I could respond, James walked in. Is everything all right here? Just discussing some adjustments, Mrs. Carter said. Some adjustments. As they left, I knew my home, my sanctuary, was being dismantled piece by piece, and I was expected to smile and nod. Mrs. Carter had an opinion on everything. What meals should be cooked, how the house should be cleaned. Heated arguments followed. Anna, we need to be understanding, James would say, trying to calm the storm. Adjusting, I'd retort. James, they're not adjusting. This is our home, not a hotel for your parents. But the breaking point came one evening. Mrs. Carter had made some offhand comment about the seasoning of the meal, and something inside me snapped. Mrs. Carter, I understand you're used to things a certain way, but this is my home too. I'm doing my best here. She looked at me, eyes like ice. Your best isn't good enough. Maybe if you spent less time at that job of yours and more time here. James's gaze was fixed on his plate. At that moment, I realized the gravity of the situation. I was an outsider in my own home. The tension in the house was like a thick fog, impossible to ignore. Every morning, I'd wake up to the same routine, and then come back to a list of complaints and demands. It was like living with a ticking time bomb, never knowing when the next explosion would be. One evening, I was in the kitchen, trying to juggle preparing dinner and responding to a flurry of work emails, and Mrs. Carter came in. Anna, this kitchen is a mess. And what's for dinner? She asked, her voice drooping with disdain. I clenched my jaw, fighting the urge to snap back. I'm doing the best I can, Mrs. Carter, you know. That was it, the final straw. Mrs. Carter, I'm working this job to support us, and I'm also trying to manage the house. I'm only one person. I can't do everything. Well, maybe you should consider working from home then. That way you can keep an eye on the house and still do your job. I was flabbergasted. Work from home, just so I could clean up after them and cook on demand. The thought was suffocating. James and I have been talking, she said, with a hint of a smug expression in her eyes. And what about me? Don't I get a say in this? I asked. Just then, James walked in. Hoping for some support, I turned to him. Please tell me you don't agree with this. He looked uncomfortable, caught between his mother and his wife. And it's just, Mom has a point. It would make things easier. Easier? For whom? Certainly not for me. I felt like I was drowning. James, this is not about making things easier. It's about respect and boundaries. And now they're trying to dictate how I live and work. This is not okay, I said, my voice rising with every word. Mrs. Carter interjected, her tone patronizing. Dear, we're family now. We should be helping each other, not arguing over trivial things. Trivial things, my job, my independence. I looked at James, but all I saw was indecision, a man torn between his wife and his mother. I found myself boxed into a corner with no escape. The air in the house was thick with my silent acquiescence as I reluctantly agreed to work from home. Each day melted into the next, filled with cooking and cleaning, all under the watchful, often disapproving gaze of Mrs. Carter. James, then came that fateful evening, the one where the weight of my silence became too heavy to bear. We were gathered around the dinner table, the air heavy with the aroma of the meal I had spent hours preparing. Mrs. Carter had just made a complaining comment about the seasoning, the chicken, and I finally found my voice. I'm tired, I said, the words falling from my lips like heavy stones. I'm tired of trying to balance work and taking care of everyone's needs. Maybe it's time we considered living separately. The words hung in the air, a fragile bubble of hope destined to burst. Mrs. Carter paused, then, to my utter disbelief, said, I agree. This arrangement isn't ideal, but this house is so well equipped for our needs. Anna, it would make sense for you to find another place. The room spun, desperate for him to intervene, to stand up for us. I looked at James. He just said, if you want to leave here, you can leave. This house suits their needs. His words crushed me. The man I loved, a man I had built a life with, was throwing me out of my own home, betraying my grandmother's legacy. Without a word, I pushed my chair back and stood up. I could feel their eyes on me. The room was silent except for the muffled voice on the other end of the phone. Yes, I need to schedule a move, I said, my voice clear and loud enough for everyone to hear. Mrs. Carter smirked, a smug smile spreading across her face. She thought I was conceding, retreating from my own home. But the reality of my words hadn't hit her yet. Mrs. Carter, you seem to be misunderstanding the situation. The movers aren't for me. They're for you and your husband. You have until the end of the day to pack your things and leave my house. The silence hung in the air like a verdict. Mrs. Carter's face drained of color, transforming into a mask of disbelief and shock. But this is our home now. You can't just throw us out, she stammered, her voice trembling with a mix of outrage and fear. This was never your home. You imposed yourselves here, but I'm reclaiming what's rightfully mine, I replied. James was on his feet now. Anna, please, let's talk about this. You don't need to do this. We're a family. The word family hit me like a slap in the face. This was not how families treated each other. This was not how love manifested. James, a family respects each other. A family supports each other. What happened here was manipulation and disrespect. I'll have divorce papers sent to you tomorrow. Mrs. Carter started to cry, her sobs a cacophony of disbelief and anger. James tried to plead, his words a jumbled mess of apologies and promises. But it was too late. The decision had been made, the line drawn. The sun streamed through the windows the next morning. The house was quiet, a stark contrast to the constant noise and tension that had become my daily reality. The house was mine again, my sanctuary, my refuge. It was in this moment of solitude that the doorbell rang. I opened the door to find my friend Sarah standing there, a warm smile on her face and a casserole dish in her hand. Heard you might need some company and comfort food, she said. We made our way to the kitchen, the aroma of the casserole filling the space. As we sat down at the table, Sarah reached for my hand. So, what now? She asked, her voice soft but curious. I took a deep breath, the future a blank canvas before me. I'll start over. I'll rebuild on my terms. It's daunting, sure, but also liberating. You know, sometimes the best beginnings come from the hardest endings. You're stronger than you think, she said. I guess it's time to find out what I'm really made of, I replied, a tentative smile on my lips. The conversation flowed, and as the sun dipped below the horizon, I realized that this was more than just a new beginning. It was a chance to rediscover myself, to redefine my boundaries, to live my life unapologetically. After hearing this whole chaotic story, do you think I handled the situation correctly? I'm really wondering if I could have done anything differently to avoid this huge family blow-up, or if I'm just being too harsh on my in-laws and James. I keep second-guessing if I overreacted, but the thought of continuing to live the way they wanted me to made me feel like I was losing myself completely. I'm open to hearing all opinions, so please let me know what you think about how I dealt with this whole mess.